Blog Talk Radio. Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, December 18th, 2014. I am Chief Langley of the Savannah River Band of Yuchi Indian Tribes. I'm happy to be with you this afternoon. And tonight, we're going to finish up a lecture I did back in January. And this is the second half of Indian slavery and racial reclassification. So tonight, I always speak to you from a spiritual aspect of dealing with the fundamentals of genealogy. And to me, genealogy is a way of life. And most people don't understand. They think genealogy and ancestry is the same thing, but they're not. Genealogy is the study of your ancestors. That is key. How they lived, what they did, what time frame, their culture. That's very important. Checking your ancestry, knowing what your ancestor names are, what their ethnic background. Many times, you have to be very careful with that, especially in South Carolina. And for those of you out there who are family historians or amateur genealogists, you want to know history. Learning history of timelines, geography, law is key. Don't let no one tell you otherwise. You would be more effective learning the history. As a forensics genealogist, I teach genealogy from a historical perspective as well. And I deal with it on a detailed analysis and dealing with specifics. These are the things you have to do. So as we journey tonight in this lecture, take some notes. This lecture is also recorded, so you will find it on YouTube as well as on Blog Talk and SoundCloud. But before I get started, I want to clear up something, and this is a public service announcement that I need to make. There's some information floating around on the web that belongs to the Yuchi Indian tribe. Now, let me explain something to you. My family has lived the story. We have over 40 years of research. We have over 1,000 documentations, as well as books in our digital archives that is owned by the Yuchin Historical Society. So you can go to any other class that's teaching my information, this tribal information, but you're not being taught by me. I don't discourage anyone to go from anywhere. Choose as you will. It is best that you get it from the source, because we have lived it, we've researched it, we've validated it, and we have the sources of the information. I just want to clear that up. I give anybody the opportunity to go out and teach. Do it on your own time and your own research. Having gotten that out of the way, let's deal tonight I'm going to start with the one drop blood rule again, and I'm going to give you a story of 3 Indian sisters. And these 3 Indian sisters married different men. One sister married a European, another sister married an African, and another sister married another Indian not from her tribe. So let's clear this up. Because of the law and how it's written, the sister that married the European, her child became a half-breed. The one that married the African, their child, and depending on what tribe this is, that individual was labeled as a Blackfoot, but it's a derogatory term in Indian country. But that's what it means. You also get mulatto out there from a Spanish law perspective, because the Spanish laws, and you can check Chambers' Encyclopedia, states that the offspring is of a Negro and an Indian or Indigo. That's from the Spanish. But you also get a Sambo out of that. Now, when we were growing up, we thought Sambo was just African, but if you go down to the Caribbean, you're going to find a whole different scenario. So you got to understand history here. So now, the third sister marries another Indian. So that child remains Indian. Now, here's the issue we have to deal with. The half European, half native, that child is considered Indian. The half African Indian, that child is considered Negro and no longer Indian by a one drop blood rule. Now, the problem here is that these 3 children are all blood related. And from a Native American perspective, 1 drop of Indian blood makes you an Indian. But European colonial law and colonial thinking changes that. So now you got to understand, what were they trying to do to change that? Increase the Negro population in this country? Make more people slaves? You got to understand the dynamics of this. Because I teach all the time, and I tell my students, in 1682, Virginia decided that Africans and Indians who are enslaved will be under umbrella called Negro, because they are not in enmity with the state or the colony. You got to understand this clearly. Now you have in this country now a lot of so-called African Americans all want to gravitate to being Indian. I'm sorry, y'all are not. They want to identify with only the slaves that came in this country. I have to break it down tonight to tell you, those not the only Africans that came up in here. There's another 200 and some thousand that came in this country as indentured, but you were not taught that in your history books. But I'm laying it down to you tonight. Otherwise, Virginia wouldn't have been able to expel 66,000 free Africans, and they went to the free states, and some went to South Carolina and North Carolina. But you got to understand, in that timeline, Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, these were free states. So don't just think the only Africans that came in this country are the enslaved Africans. I'm sorry. Totally sorry to bust your bubble. It didn't happen that way. There were some free ones in here that was indentured, and they lived with the British long before the British colonized the New World as it known as the 13 colonies. So these things you must understand. But you also got to understand is that many slaves came from the South Pacific as well. So you got Polynesians that are in South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. You got to understand these things. Well, someone said, well, Chief Langley, how is that possible? Well, how is it possible? I'm going to tell you how it's possible. If you want a Toyota and they don't have one in the United States, you have to import it. And where do you get it from? Comes off a ship from a foreign country. They did the same thing with slavery. So when you're dealing with your sugar plantations, you better start looking at some Polynesians. So many of you out here who gravitate to DNA testing and your DNA test shows some South Asian, that's where it comes from. You got to understand this. These things are very relevant and important. You have to study Cotton Trail, the Rice Trail, the Indigo Trail, Tobacco Trail. Many free Egyptians were living in South Carolina in the 1700s as cotton plantation owners. Very well so. Egyptian cotton, some of the finest in the world. You don't find this in the history book, but I tell you what, you certainly find it in South Carolina colonial records. So instead of some of you out here fantasizing about being Egyptian, study your genealogy. Rightfully so. It just may belong to you. Not everybody, but some of you. It really sounds ridiculous what I hear sometimes when I'm online and what I read. You can gravitate with something that identifies 3,000 years ago, but you can't go back and identify 3 generations or 4 generations of ancestors. That's less than 200 years. But you can identify with something for 2,000 years. Quit falling for the hype. It's ridiculous. Really, it is. Now, if you want to take this issue with me offline, sure, but I guarantee you, buddy, I got the scholarship. I have the records. So humble your ego down and do your genealogy. These things are very important in life. See, it comes to an account where you're going to have to go on this journey on your own and do some soul searching. Because when you gravitate to that that's 2,000 years ago, that's not of you, and you think it's of you, you really do a disservice to your ancestors. And no wonder you can't connect with them spiritually. No wonder you can't identify, because you're not looking in that direction. You're looking in a diversion. Diversion. Don't follow this diversion. Because in this country, 200 years ago, depending on who you are, if you were white, you may have been a black man or black woman. If you're black, you may have been white, may have been Indian. Chief, how is that possible? I'm going to tell you how it's possible. Because we're going to go back to those 3 Indian sisters. And then a half-breed who's half white and Indian. His child has a choice. You going to marry back into Indian? Or you going to marry back European? So he marries back European. And his children marry back European. And his child marry back European. Now, 4 generations down the line, the appearance is no longer Native American. It is European. let him sides and go marry and have offspring from a black. And that one black now, 3 generations, married back white again. And 3 generations down the line, according to the law, whoever want to deal with it, oh, he is still black. No, he's a European. He has both native and African in his blood, but it's unseen in the features. Y'all have to start looking at things from the form of science and understanding what it is, and quit looking at gray areas and deal with the black and white. These things are crucial. These things are very important. But you won't know this if you don't check your genealogy. I teach my students all the time colonial laws, especially the ones that govern race. Because in South Carolina, the issue of a mulatto in the 1600s and 1700s and 1800s, according to the law, is the issue of a white woman and a Negro. So having said that, many white people, you got a black granddaddy in your gene pool. To descend from that mulatto. That's just South Carolina. What about Virginia? An English man and a Negro woman. That child becomes white and free. Mulatto white. But he's still a slave because the mother was a Negro. Slavery follows the condition of the mother. Don't assume that the laws in the different colonies are all parallel. No. Don't buy into that. Don't generalize that. You have to go and research that carefully. It's very important now. Do not generalize across the board. The colonies. Okay? Scottish and Irish slavery ended in 1838 and 1839. Which he's like, I ain't never know white folks were slaves. Oh, yes, they were. Many of them came from London on convict ships. 40, 50, 60,000 in Maryland and Virginia. Go research the historical records of immigration and prison records from those prison ships that landed in Virginia and Maryland. These people are convicts. See, you haven't understand this. I understand now how quick many of them were quick to hang, shoot, and kill. Because they're criminals. You were a criminal in England. They put you on the ship and sent you over here. These people are criminals. Can't understand. I'm just telling you what history is. Follow the behavior of the person in genealogy. It will track you back to a convict ship if you analyze it. You got to understand these things. But see, this history was cut off from you, from school. History books don't teach it. They want to romance things and omit, tell you what they want because it's playing on your mind. But now as an adult, you have the freedom and sovereignty in your mind. See, I don't run around here talking about those sovereign papers. I'm sovereign in my thinking of knowing the truth of things that sets me free. These are things you have to understand. Don't let no one tell you otherwise. Because you got some cats around here have you in jail, thinking you sovereign, trying to reminisce on some old Roman laws that no longer apply in the 21st century. Got to understand this. Understand it well. Oh, I'm going to create new nation. How you going to create a new nation? You better deal with the nation that you descend from in this country, if you descend from this country. Okay, Chief Langley. There are 5 civilized tribes. Okay. Where are the uncivilized tribes? Those are the people you need to be researching. Who remained wild and didn't come under Anglo law. Who is written out of history by paper. Those are the people that many of you descend from. But everybody want to be a Cherokee. Let me tell you something. Cherokee, for a long time, was no more than a misnomer. The word. Because it applied just like the Negro. Anybody black all over the world is a Negro. Anybody Indian all over the country is a Cherokee. You better understand this. So when your ancestors are talking Cherokee, you might want to question that because you might descend from an area where there were never any Cherokees. Never had any villages there. Well, what about these other people? My grandfather mentioned that name. Let me check it out. Think it might lead you to Africa? You better think again. Many things will, many won't. See? I have spent many days and nights with many historians, anthropologists, archaeologists, dissecting the slave trade, counting the immigration records, counting the bill of sales, knowing how many people came in here. But a lot of you are still so ignorant in your thinking. There's a difference between America, the 13 colonies, than the Americas. But you want to sit and argue back and forth. My mama told me something a long time ago. Baby, when you write, don't waste your time arguing with a fool. Don't waste your time. When you know the facts, don't waste your time. Some people are not open-minded, and they are on their agendas, and ego comes into place. The worst thing in the world you can do is develop an ego and arrogance. Many people may not tell you, but they will walk away from you and stand further back from you. Because your spirit is resonating something I don't want to deal with. They'll just let you be. You got to come off the ignorance. You got to come off the ego. You got to come off the arrogance. I teach people who want to learn. You want to know, I give you the information. I don't own information. You can go in the same archives where I got information from. However, what applies to my family in this tribe belongs to us. You would be surprised in Indian country the number of people who will come around this country and try to steal your heritage. I was naive to that years ago, didn't think it was possible. It is very possible. Don't put all your family information online. Don't put all your pictures online. Don't share out all your family trees. You don't know the agenda of these people. If you got a legacy, you better hold on to it and make it sacred. Many of you on Ancestry and Family Search, especially Ancestry.com, sharing trees just like you sharing bubble gum. Do you know who did their research? Do you know if the people on their chart is correct? Do you take time to ask those questions? Because one ancestor will throw you off 200 years. It'll take you to the left or take you to the right. If it's not right, you have to learn to validate your own information. Take classes and learn. Everybody's story is not the same, especially when it comes to tribes and people. And even when they wrote these people out of history and said they no longer existed, you best start looking in the churches, because that medicine man became the preacher, and that chief became a deacon or officer, depending on if you're Baptist or you're AME. Well, pay attention to the details why your great-grandfather or your grandfather wore that top hat with the feather on the left side. You better pay attention why your grandmother, great-grandmama, grand-aunt wore that big hat and had those feathers in it, placing flowers around it. Oh, that's just African. I tell you what, you better do some research. I teach a class on what is African tradition, what is Native tradition. See? You have to ask questions. For the black people in this country, for the African American people in this country, who done been something all across the board, you have to do a diagnostics of your situation. Got to understand these things. See? What, no Indian living in no shotgun house? That's African. Well, Chief, how so? Well, if you go to West Africa and look at some of the tribes and compare the houses today with some of the old shotgun houses, they're the same. Now, I didn't say that Africans didn't marry an Indian woman. I'm just telling you that's an African house. That's African tradition. You got to understand these things. Learning your history has never been difficult. You were told it's difficult because you don't do genealogy. You just study your ancestry. People, there's a difference. See, when my grandmother that raised me from 3 days old, my mom, set me down and told me what I was going to do in my 40s, and she in her 90s, I'm still her little boy. I am giving this to you. I am putting it in your hand. This is your responsibility. Well, Mama, why I got to be? Don't question me, boy. Yes, ma'am. You gonna carry this torch. You make it or you break it. But what I want you to do, baby, come here, hug me, give Mama some sugar. Whatever you do, always tell the truth of this history. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't make it sour. Don't make it sweet. Baby, tell it like it is. And that is what my grandmother ordained me to do. And because I honor Mama, I will continue to give it to you straight. These things. There comes a time in life when things hit you, and you got to honor it. I was lucky to have Mama till she lived to be 100 and a half. I was blessed to have women in my family of longevity. The longest was my Aunt Laura at 114. And when I spent time with her in the afternoons, I couldn't write nothing down. Boy, listen to me. Listen. You don't write nothing. You write it in your mind. Don't bring me no paper. Don't bring me no pen. Don't bring me no pencil. I want you to come here. I want your attention. And I want you to listen to what I say. Because, baby, when I tell it to you and you write it in your mind, it will always be with you. No one can take it away from you. These are the type of teachings I got growing up that I reverence with me today. See, I ain't the only one that have these stories. Many of you. But the problem you're having is connecting the pieces. But you got to get away from arrogance. You got to get away from these illusions. You got to get away from this hype and sit down one day and look at that man or woman in the mirror and to say, you know what? I really need to sit down and analyze the situation because my soul is not at peace. I need to know. Who is out here giving the truth? Who can help me decide this? Decipher. See, the truth travels thousands of miles. I would never phantom, and I'm an engineer, electronic by degree, but have worked on computers for the Department of Defense. I'm a defense contractor. But I never imagined that I would get the opportunity to tell my story. And people will listen to me all the way in Asia, China, India, Japan, South America. Listening. I got more white people following me in America than I have these Negroes who need to know the truth. You need to understand things. This is not a dream of chasing money. This is not a dream for you to get mad because the Cherokees don't let you in the federal tribe. That don't apply to you. Well, gee, my grandma was Cherokee. How so? Check it out. See if Cherokee ain't a confederation. They got 27 other tribes up in there to make up that confederation. So which one is your grandmama? Is she Cherokee? She Kiowa? She Seneca? You better think. Your grandmother only know what was told to her. You gotta search things out. My family had this Blackfoot thing for a long time. Uchin Blackfoot. Wasn't no Blackfoot around here? Okay, that's somebody in the family then. Okay. Somebody that made it with an African. And that offspring over there. Okay, that's where that black from. Oh, so that's cousin over there. Oh, okay. I sat down with my mama. Hey, my mama had a state of dementia. But the light came on in my head. Get your pen and paper. I ain't dealing with Aunt Laura. I'm dealing with Mama. And in the afternoons, Mama go to traveling. Solid? Mama talking to Daddy? Whoa. Let me write down something. Mama speaking in tongue? No. Mama said agashale. Mama said hitohe. Oh my God, Mama speaking in Uchin. Now Mama was in church, they say she's speaking in tongue. Yeah, her native language. Down. Every afternoon for about 3 years that I'm around my mama, 6, 7 in the afternoon, I am taking notes. And I advise many of you that are listening to do the very same thing. Be careful. Don't let them dope your ancestors up, your parents up. Dig into that. Because mama is on that different dimension where she communicating now with the ancestors in the spirit while she's in the flesh. See? That's why they call it dementia. Dimensions. See? Other things that have been taken to us, away from us, by the ideology and philosophy of Europeans. They are not us. The majority of things that are written by Indian people, with the exception of a few in the last 25 or 30 years, are written by Europeans. I'm sorry. When I got on this genealogy journey to become a scholar and to teach and to research, I created my own institution. We got the Houston Heritage Society. Now let's have the Savannah River Chiefdom Indigenous Learning Institute. No, I can't follow their way. I can't follow the African way. I can't follow the European way. I'm sorry. My mama done left me a roadmap. We're going to deal with this. Comes a time you come in your own, you establish your own. You're not going to tell me my way of thinking and I know what happened. I got a common sense to know oral stories become written stories when you write them down and record them. Many of your ancestors with those oral stories, those are no more than a navigational tool to get you back home. You got to understand this. Don't ignore it. Humble yourself down. My mama always told me, baby, worry and hurry are negative thoughts. Do not apply neither one. Take it all in moderation. I don't hurry and I ain't worried. Take time. See? When you take time, you pay attention to your surroundings. My mama, grandma that raised me for 3 days old, mama would sit me out in the yard sometimes. Baby, you see that block? Now, if you walk out in the yard and don't look where you're going, that block becomes a stumbling block. Now, what I want you to do, when you go outside and you see that block, I want you to step on it. Now it becomes a stepping stone. Baby, you see how you just elevated? Yes, ma'am. But, baby, that's how you're going to get over your problems in life. Because a stumbling block is no more than a stepping stone, depending on how you turn it and how you look at your lively situations. And this is what many of you need to do. Look at your situations. See? Many times people get caught up in the spirit. But I'm going to tell you something. The spirit is good, but in the spirit world, you got a negative polarity, you got a positive polarity. You got bad spirits, you got good spirits. So don't sit here talking about Okay, I'm back. For some reason, we had a technical difficulty here. So we're back now.
In life, you have to be very careful who you're connected with. Everybody gravitates to the spirit world. Well, we're connected spiritually. But in the spiritual world, you have a negative polarity, you have a positive polarity. You have negative spirits, you have positive spirits. You have good spirits, you have evil spirits. So you're not justifying anything saying that you're spiritually connected. You better understand what type energy is flowing, what vibration is flowing, what frequency you're resonating on to be in harmony. See? Because the spirit is those things that are unseen. Many times, I travel in my dreams. And we were taught in school, don't let a kid daydream. You're taking my creation away. My mother that raised me encouraged me to take a nap a day. Take a nap, especially in the summertime when in school. Go take your nap. Go dream. You taking trips? Tell me about it. Who'd you see? Where'd you go? We don't do that anymore as a whole. See? These things are very important. You can't forget these things. You got to dig down in your geography, in your geology bags, and see what's in there. What trail did your ancestor leave? That's why it's called the genealogy trail. What memories? What habits? What reputation? I tell people all the time, my grandmother left me such a legacy, I can go to the bank broke and get money off mama, and she's gone. But because I am her grandson, yes, sir, he can have it. Miss Ruby was good to me. That's who you come from? You're welcome. See, you got to understand in life what's in your blood. The blood. I don't care what that child looks like, what's in the blood. Little girls I want to date sometime, and I'm growing up, mama said, who are people? You ain't mixing my blood with that. Leave that alone. You got some problems. Them people beyond off. Their morals ain't right. You gonna have many of your ancestors raising up from the dead. You go over there. No. See? I thought mama was being mean until I looked into the situation. Wow, mama's right. Woo, I'm glad I didn't go over there. You see, many a times when you don't govern your situations, male or female, you end up bringing offsprings in the world and raising children from someone you can no longer stand or stomach. Now you got to deal with the behavior of the children, and the first thing you say, that ain't come from my side. That comes from her side. Where you could have choose carefully, and you would just have to deal with one side. These things are very important. Don't let no one tell you otherwise. Now, in native slavery, in the earlier times, they had slave raids. You have a Colonel Palmer in South Carolina and Georgia area. and you had a Colonel Barnwell. Any Tuscarora historian knows Colonel Barnwell. And these men went on war slaving raids throughout the Carolinas and North Carolinas into what later became Georgia and then Florida. Slaving, killing and slaving Indians and writing them off into the world of the Negro. Until the slave trade in South Carolina, the Indian slave took on the identity of the African slave trade because there were many. Many of you get misconstrued about something. Let me explain the word black to you. When you go back and you examine the natives of the Southeast, given the time frame, not assimilated with any European or any African, you got dark people. You got people so dark, you will call them black. I'm saying this to you because I want you to understand something. When you look at the census, and this is why you need to understand the history of the census. Black is a color. Census takers identified people by color, not a necessity. They didn't care what language they spoke. Skin color. This is what you got to get over. I teach a class called Understanding the Census, understanding the history of it, understanding the protocol, how they coded people. Got to understand these things. Okay, I accept you got my folks down as dark or black. What language they speak? I tell you what, let's go dig up the same ancestor here from 1820. I ain't got no problem with assuming my ancestors for an archaeology report on my family. We can deal with this. Well, look at that golf she has on. Look at these moccasins on her feet. What tribe that come from? Oh, mm-hmm. You want to dig up a land? You don't deal with me better because I know who I am. Go take the time. File a permit and do your own archaeology research on your family. You really want to get into the grind and deal with this? File your permit. They can't deny you. And call a local university and talk to one of them anthropologists, archaeologists, and tell them what you want to do. And see don't they have the grant funding for it to make it happen. Oh, they're going to do a little research now. Okay. We're going to guideline this. We're going to open up the tomb or the grave. When we open it up, you take a little DNA from the fingertips or the hair, cut a little piece of the clothing and examine it. And we're going to properly place her back. See? Well, I don't want to disturb the dead. Wait a minute. You around here promoting Egyptian, going to all these museums, looking at these mummies. Haven't they been disturbed? If anybody going to disturb my ancestors, it'll be me. And that ain't no disrespect to me and my own. These are things to be dealt with. So you got to come into your own and take charge of your situation. But many of you don't want to do any research on your family. You just want to live in la-la land. I don't live in la-la land when it comes to mine. We're going to deal with some facts. And don't be ashamed if you got an African in the line. Don't be ashamed if you got an Indian in the line. Don't be ashamed if you got a European in the line. Because it is those ancestors that got you here today. See? These things are very important. Well, Chief Langley, this is the early census of 1790. Wait a minute. That's the United States. Well, what about the French down in Louisiana? What about them? Taking one in 1704. What about that census? What about the Spanish census of 1668? Huh? Well, I dig my ancestors and say, how do you know unless you research? See, I dig into archives. The French, the Spanish, the English. I don't trust America on everything. You got to go outside the country and get it. Many of you from Mobile, Alabama, Louisiana records, you need to go look in the Alabama Parish records. Well, Chief, I ain't never heard of that. It exists. Go look it up. The baptism records. Many of you come from Louisiana, Illinois, Indiana. You don't need to be screaming Cherokee. You need to be looking at Pawnee. Because they enslaved thousands of them all the way up to Canada. It was in the records. That's Pawnee. They were so dark they couldn't tell them the difference from the African Negro. I'm just telling you, look at the parish records. Pawnee. P-A-W-N-E-E. Don't look at that same Pawnee you see on TV today, because that's Hollywood. Research the ones in the 16 and 1700s that became slaves. You got to understand these things. There's so many laws out there written how they would sell the children of the female slaves. That reminds me today on how folks do a litter of puppies. Well, as soon as you have these puppies, we already got them sold. That's how they used to do people. They don't understand these things. These things are very, very important. Study history. Go beyond the walls of time. Dig into the trenches. Pull up the carpet. Look at what's been omitted. Dig deep. If you're here today, that's because you had an ancestor that was alive in the 1600s. Do you understand what I'm telling y'all? This is a spiritual walk. Do your genealogy and learn who you are. It's not difficult. It's not hard. Learn. When you learn about your ancestors, you learn about you. Don't let anyone take that away from you. My grandmama that raised me from 3 days old, Mama told me, baby, whatever you do in life, and she held my hand, don't let nobody steal your joy. I was taught to have joy. My mama didn't teach me to look for happiness. You joy every day. Be joyful, son. Happiness come and go. Joy is like your health. You take care of it, it's going to be with you for a very long time. Got to understand these things. So tonight, as I talk to you, take you on a journey. And many of you have the same journey. My genealogy ministry is across the board. I'm a Native American, and I teach genealogy across the board. I don't have no one message just for white. I don't have no one message just for black. I don't have one message just for the Native people. My focus is Native people, but there are other people who need to know, because they run into these brick walls. I can't find nobody. Yes, you can. You don't want to accept the fact of that color that's sitting over there. I'm sorry. I tell people all the time, when Georgia was created, it was a free state. So when those 66,003 Africans left Virginia in the 1680s, they went to Georgia because it was free. Other one went to Maryland, then Philadelphia, then New Jersey. When those migrated south, they became slave owners. I'm sorry. The majority of the white people in Georgia and South Carolina didn't get much of their land till after 1865. And many of them were slaves of these black slave owners, and they end up sharecropping and owning the land. Now the children of the slave owner now sharecrops for the children he enslaved. Really, that's kind of tough, isn't it? Go read the archives. Well, I thought Sherman came through and burned everything. Let me tell y'all something. Do not buy for 1 minute that all of these records got burned from these courthouses that got burned down. They knew when the army was coming. They moved those records the night before or 2 nights before, stashed them in the church or in somebody's house. That is a reality. Let me explain something to y'all that happened last year. Franklin County, North Carolina is a prime example. Somebody stumbled upon 160-year-old land deed. Did they tell the public about it? No. What did they do? Burn it. Why is that? Franklin County, North Carolina, in colonial days, had more colored slave owners than you can imagine. You better go check the archives. Oh, we don't want to let this out because these aliens will come back and claim property. Burn the records. See, many times in the South, you have 2 families. Same last name. But mostly the white ones are on the land. Like, oh, no, they no kidding us. Really? I tell you what, I've seen too many cases since I've been in this field work, whereas the white ones descend from the black, and the black one descends from the white. Too many court cases going on you don't hear about doesn't mean this stuff don't exist. Go Google it. Find out who descended from who. And what was the law that day. I ain't telling y'all what is facts. You don't need to go join no more society and pay $500 for them to trick. No. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you Indian or you black or you white. It matters if you are an heir. And if you can show you are an heir, you don't go in there with no DNA testing. You better go in there with your family tree, and you better have your genealogy tied to it to show how that ancestor ended up in this tree with this land. It ain't got nothing to do with being a member of no tribe. It's got to do with you being an heir of the property that your ancestor owned. There are some tribes out there that have an aboriginal land claim, but you're dealing with those families that are descendants of these tribes that have that. That's not everybody. See, y'all been duped and lied to, but I'm going to tell you like it is. There's going to be some sad booty holes. You going down there thinking something else because it ain't going to happen. You better be able to track back where your ancestor held that or your tribe held that, and you are a descendant of that. That's why I tell you all the time, you need to start looking at these wild tribes that they wrote out existence on paper. And these lands are setting now in federal government trust, where you find these national and state parks. Now, do your homework. Don't fantasize. Well, I'm going to get and change my... No, you ain't know. You've been a nigger for 44 years. You going to change overnight? What legal status? You got to tie yourself to a tribe. You can prove it. You can't understand these things. The nigger all your life, living the nigger life, now you're going to be Indian. Don't know nothing about native law, native customs. You better wake up. Find out who you are. Find a legit tribe, people who know their history, not these clowns running around here, claiming sovereignty, deal with it on a real tip, like these little kids say, keep it straight 100. That's a reality. Fact. I ain't joining none of them. Don't need to. We'll advise you not to. If y'all got 25 or 40 acres of land that your grandfather left, keep it for yourself and establish you a heritage society. Stay away from these people. You can come to find out you ain't going to have your land. Be careful what you say. Well, if they're going to come in to help you develop, you can take your time and develop it your own self. It's amazing how outside people can come in and tell you what to do with your own stuff, but you had it all your life. You can't come up with no ideas. Better be careful. And I know many of them are listening, and I don't care. You can't do nothing for me, nor my family, nor this tribe. Stay off my Facebook pages because you can't recruit me. I have lived this all my life, whether my family said anything about it or not. I am not interested, period. When you run around people going to charge you, you better scratch your head. Think about it very carefully. That's a reality. Don't come near me. I am not interested. You can't do nothing for me. My grandmother and grandfather and great-grandmother and great-grandfather and so forth and so on paved the way for me. Need not apply. I'm not interested. You can play this video back 1,000 times to be in remembrance of what I just said. Not happening. I know my history. I know what the laws are. You that are listening, be very careful. Tread lightly. Do your homework. Establish your families Heritage Society. Create a preservation and heritage society of the tribe that you feel your family descends from. Do your homework to make sure you have it right. And do your genealogy and structure. Go get your state charter and file it on a 501(c)(3). You're doing your family reunions. Turn it into your family tribe. Make sure you know who you come from. And apply for those heritage grants. It's available to you. This is how it is done. This is what these white folks have been doing for years. I am telling you. Don't want to take my word for it? Go search grant.gov and see how many grants that's been awarded to these heritage clubs. There are 501(c)(3) nonprofit organizations. You're Johnny come lately on the boat. They've been doing this for years. They are not tied to federal tribes, not all of them. Some may be. For the most part, this is what they have done. You can do it too. I made myself clear on that. Save yourself some heartache. Take your family reunion and establish you a preservation and heritage society out of it. Learn your history so you can have your genealogy in place when you apply for these federal grants or state grants to show this is the heritage of who you are. This is why you deserve to have this grant. It's your grant writer. That's how the game is played. Anybody else tell you otherwise, they're lying to you. Flat out. Now, don't listen to me. Give up your little dollars. 2 or 3 years down the line, or 6 months down the line, you think about what I just said to you. Make it clear. I hate to think on these things, but these things out here happen, and somebody needs to stand up and tell you the truth of these things. These things are very important. So as I leave you tonight, I'm going to open the floor. I'm sorry earlier there was a disconnection for some reason, but when you play the audio back, you won't have a gap in that. We have that cleared up. So I'm going to open up these lines, and I'm going to start with 267 if you have any questions. 267. Going once, going twice. 770. Well, if nobody else have any questions, I would say good night. I will be back on Saturday night again at 8 o'clock, the lecture. I'm on this journey with you and to help you have a better understanding of who you are. And that is key, to help you to decipher the roadmap, to answer the unanswered, to help you think about the think about. We're here. I'm here. My travel office number is 803-702-4403. You can call the office from 9 to 6. You can find us on www.srbeuchee.com. Tribe.org. We have tons of resources, tons of information that gets you safely through this journey. And on that note, as we say good evening, we say hitoe, and it also means best wishes and good night. Hitoe to all. Good night.